story in every bottle. Has he had a long day? Do you think he's had a long day?
It looks like a long day.
I think so.
I had less than a long day.
What's going on?
I had a snow day today. I don't know about you guys.
It was a snow day. How's everybody doing?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to another Monday night. It's Monday night.
Another
again.
Monday. All right.
Oh, we got to get the
Technical.
get that up.
Whoops.
There we go.
There we
Technical
go.
difficulties.
Hey.
Put it back on the comment. There we go.
Cheers. Cheers. Hey, everybody.
Welcome to another Monday night with the Hermits and our co-host Marika. Glad you could come. Hope you survived the storm. I don't know. Everybody's coming from different places. We had it pretty bad here in the morning. It was a big mess.
It was a mess.
Slushy.
Nice snow at first.
But then
that
heavy
freezing
and
rain
wet.
got warm, and
Blowing everywhere. The
I was
roads
on
looked awful.
104 around noon, and the road was just a mess.
Yeah. So we actually closed the winery today, which is something that we've only done 2 or 3 times since we've been open, but it just made more sense than having people drive all the way here on this yucky day. It turned out to be a beautiful day, though. Nice afternoon to do some shoveling.
It very abruptly changed from nasty, gray, stormy, couldn't
nice
see
sunny
anything
day.
to sunny.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was really cool. It was a blue sky day.
I got soaking wet, snow blowing, because it was raining.
Oh.
It's hilarious.
So let's see, a couple things before we get going. As always, for those of you who might be new to the show, if you haven't subscribed to our page, you can subscribe. No, over here underneath Ken, YouTube. And then for Facebook, there's a little bell on your screen somewhere. Click that bell. And if you subscribe to YouTube and Facebook, you will get to know whenever we go live. Like yesterday, if you happen to be on, we were live from the black ice on the Meredith Bay. Yeah. So like us or subscribe to us, and you'll get notifications when we go live in the future, including every Monday night. And if you're joining us today, we'd love it if you'd comment. Let us know you're here. Just announce yourself, and if you have any questions or comments about the show, we really strongly urge you to engage with us. We'll answer any questions that we can in real time, and if we can't get to your questions now, or if we don't know the answers, we'll usually get them to you by the end of the show. At the end of the show, we'll put them in the comment section. Mm-hmm. Let's see, if you like what we're talking about, you think you know people that will like what we're talking about, please share this with your friends and invite them to join us on Monday nights, and just like the broadcast or like the Facebook listing, and that will help get more eyes on our shows for the future. So,
Janice is surprised that you guys didn't have any crushable cans out there while you were skating.
Well,
we were surprised.
Both of us were like, well, wait a minute, what happened here? I guess we were so excited to get out on the ice that we didn't actually think about bringing something to drink.
It was kind of weird. Really, it was very disappointing.
Very strange for us to do that.
It's because Chuck wasn't there.
That's true.
For sure.
I'm not sure.
He would have had a flask or something to.
Not sure if Chuck is here either. Chuck,
He's probably asleep. I think he's in Amsterdam. Yes.
Yeah, so it's pretty late in the evening.
Yeah.
He sent some nice pictures of Amsterdam.
He was strolling around Amsterdam.
Lovely.
Sent some pictures to us. But whatever. It's 11:30 there.
He'll be back for for next week's show, won't he? Will he be here next Monday?
I think so. He's coming back Wednesday.
Yeah, I think he is. He'll be here for next show, which will be great because next week we're going, as a reminder, to
spin some vinyl.
Spin some vinyl at Defiant Records.
Defiant
Records is a new business this year in downtown Laconia, next to the theater, and it's a cool little record shop. place where you can get some local craft beer from around New England. And Marika tells me they have some nice selections.
They do indeed.
And some nice food items to have as well. So we're going to sit down with the two owners and co-founders of that business and have some beer and maybe some food and spin some vinyl.
Yeah.
So I hope you can join us and learn a little bit about Defiant Records. I'm really excited to get over there. But anyway, hopefully Chuck will be there for that. So.
Yeah.
We're going to come up with a new microphone situation.
Yeah.
And all these people, we only have 4 microphones, but we'll figure it out. Maybe we can bring some of our mics from our corded mics.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, details. So what are we going to do today? So we have
science.
We have
It looks like science.
Science. We have flasks and beakers.
Well, what we're drinking right now is Lake House White.
And I think most of our audience could probably guess what we were drinking because we have not very many things that are this color.
That's right. Well, if you take the meads,
I guess there are the meads. That's true.
Yeah.
The meads.
So,
but
we really this is the only one, with the exception of Winnie White, which hasn't been around that long and it's sold out. This is the only regular sort of classic white wine that we've had for years. Right. And it's always been our mission to add to our selection of white wines. We have a nice collection of red wines that are evolving nicely over the years. But Lake House White has sort of just led the charge on the white side. And so Ken has been thinking about all kinds of things as to how we can round out our white wine. And Winnie White was a nice start to that.
Yeah, and that's definitely bringing that back. And 2 of the key components here go into Winnie White. But some of these new things may find their way into Winnie White or into something else. So this is just going to be a little bit of a show and tell, and let you guys try wines when they're really young, immature, unfiltered, unblended, just the raw.
So you took these wines earlier today out of the tanks?
Straight out of the container. Some are in tanks, a number of these are literally just 1 5-gallon jug.
Okay.
That's it. That's all we have. It's just experimental to see what they bring to the glass.
Yeah.
And if we like, depending on our time and spirit, we can even do some blending to see what that's like. But let's start with the raw materials first off. So
I love I don't know if you did it for other reasons too, but just the array of colors.
Yeah, I laid them out.
It's quite a rainbow.
Sort of the lightest all the way over. And what's really strange, this is the lightest one. This starts off looking like tomato paste. Red tomatoes.
And all the color drops out.
A whole bunch of red tomatoes and all the color drops.
Because that's tomato wine made entirely from tomatoes. Whole tomatoes?
Whole tomatoes.
Skins and all?
Yep.
Wow. So it is so pale.
Actually, there was an experiment going on with this. Half of was de-skinned and half was with skins. But this is a blend of those 2. But I have some of them separate.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of each particular ones, all of these were created within the last 6 months.
Yeah, they were all made this last fall. I think the first one was in September with the plums.
And they were some of these are new fruits that you've never worked with before.
Yep, all but 2.
And some of them, as you said, came in carboys, which, of course, if you all remember back, any of you remember back or know us in the early days, almost all of our wines, at one point or another, were made in a carboy.
Lake House White started that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Petit Blue started that way.
Exactly.
They all started in a small batch.
Yeah. And even today, some of our, you are continually experimenting. There's Petit Blue and small 5-gallon carboys on a regular basis where you're trying some variation on a theme or experimenting.
Yeah, because you don't want to dedicate a whole big tank to something that might not be that good. Might not be quite right.
So then
there was 2 years ago when I was making Winnie White, I explored 2 different types of plum. And one of them, the Ozark, I loved. And so this year I made a big batch of that and see what you guys think of this. But this year I also experimented with another plum, a methyl plum, which a lot of orchards have around here. And we'll see what you think as we go through it. So pour yourself a little tomato wine there.
So a carboy is just those big, 5-gallon jugs you've got downstairs.
Yeah, I think about a water cooler, where they flip those big bottles over.
You want to drink that last one?
And a little drop.
Yeah, just a little sip because we're going to save some
for blending.
for blending.
So straight tomato.
Straight tomato.
Some skins, some no skins.
Right. And this is grown by this guy, Bob Perkins, that I know at Autumn View Farm.
I really enjoyed Bob when we went down.
He's such a great guy.
He had the peaches that we picked that wild
I owe him
day.
a phone call. I just remembered. He left me a message about a week ago. I didn't call him back. Sorry, Bob. If you're out there, I will call you tomorrow. So he grows a lot of fruits and veggies for various markets around the area. Hannaford's, other supermarkets. And he's got a big field, and he's working round the clock as a farmer. And he grows a bunch of tomatoes. This variety he has had a lot of success with. It's an heirloom variety called Brandywine. It's a thin-skinned heirloom variety of tomato.
Those are so good.
Really, really tasty, yummy tomatoes.
They're like big,
they're
juicy.
big,
They're
juicy.
kind of like sometimes
weird
a little
looking.
blobby, but those are the ones we always planted those growing up. Every year.
Remember,
They're the best
Ken,
ones.
the very first tomato wine that you made.
Oh, I remember that.
We were invited down to this Krebs Farm, down on Lower Upper Bay Road in Samberton, and he had overplanted. He was a gentleman farmer, and he had way overplanted his tomatoes. And he had no idea what to do with them toward the end of the season. So he said, "You guys come on down and just go through the crop with me."
I remember that.
And we walked through this crop, and there were a dozen different types of tomatoes.
We took 5 of them. That's 5 different types.
And
one
we were
was
just
sun-kissed,
walking
one
along.
with a big brandy wine.
Yeah.
Just eating them.
Eating and
That's
tasting.
great.
And
Throw a bunch in a bucket, bring them back.
that was our first tomato wine, which was it was a surprising hit. A lot of people liked it. It wasn't quite where it needed to be. We all knew that it needed some more work.
Well, that's what tomatoes on their own have, a very strong aromatic component. It smells tomatoes. We know what tomatoes are like, a tomato sauce, and this smells like
Tomato sauce.
tomatoes.
It smells like tomato sauce.
So it's a little strange for a wine. And what I want to do today, when we get to the end, once we do these varietals, is I want to throw a little bit of tomato in with a big chunk of Ozark plum, which is where I think the Winnie White's going to go.
So you get that tomato sauce on the nose. You get the tomato sauce in the taste. It's really remarkable. I feel like having some pasta. I want to just pour it over some pasta.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Well, I remember Maya cooked some mushrooms in some Winnie White, and it was fantastic because you got that tomatoey richness in with the sauteed mushrooms. It was awesome.
What I like about this, it's got great body.
Yeah, these are
As light as it looks, it tastes full.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rich wine on its own.
Yeah.
And I like the acidity of the tomato. The only detracting thing is the aromatic part of it to me from a wine standpoint. But as you'll see, we're going to mix and blend and see what we come up with here.
Well, there's a characteristic of that vegetable character that's coming out of this that I enjoy in a white wine. So if you can get the right balance of that vegetable character with some fruit in, to balance it, it's going to work. And that's what we saw with Winnie White and the Winnie White, I think, still had a little too much of that tomato character.
Well, that was volumetrically. I had made a lot more tomato wine than I had made of the plum wine.
Right.
This year I've swapped them around. So I've made a lot more of the plum wine and not very much of the tomato wine.
So the plum, I assume, is
that
going to give us that nice fruitiness, and then we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So it's interesting, though, straight up on its own.
So what else is going on for you? We've got the vegetable character, the nose, we've got a nice body.
What I like is
the
the acidity and the brightness of the wine and the body. It is a nice base white wine.
It really coats your mouth.
It needs to have those things that are reminiscent of a white wine. When we think of a Chenin Blanc or Chardonnay, we want some of those.
It's a little flabby, a little. It doesn't have a crispness to it.
Yeah.
But you said it's got some acidity. You like the acidity.
I do. I think maybe that softness is not picked up in your mouth. I mean, everybody's mouth chemistries are different too, so we're all going to taste something different and have a different impact through the whole thing, which is interesting. But
good.
We should probably rinse this out with a little water because it's going to be hard to get rid of that tomato aromatic.
Oh yeah, Matt suggests that. Yeah, he enjoys Winnie White in the summer with a sandwich or salad. Yeah, especially maybe a Bob's tomato sandwich.
Ah, yes.
Again, if you pair things like anything, you pair them well.
Do you know, Ken? I know it's in the works. Do you know when the Winnie White will be back?
It'll be summertime, probably late spring. Hopefully by Memorial Day. It's shooting for that sort of time frame. But there's a lot of other wines.
Yes, of course.
Between now and then.
I love that flask.
That's a volumetric flask.
What's that mean?
They're used to
you can get your
volume.
narrow. You
Right,
can
so you
measure your volume.
So
there.
you're much more accurate than a beaker.
Right. That's cool.
They're all calibrated with a certain amount, and again, just take a little sip. And this is there's a fascinating fruit. It was kind of new to me, but I guess quite a few people know about them. There's a donut peach and a donut nectarine, and they look like a flying saucer. A peach, very basically spherical with a pit on the inside, and you eat all that flesh and you're left with a pit in the core. Well, a donut peach hangs on the tree and it looks like a little flat saucer. If you cut it in half, you'd have almost barbells with a little pit in the middle. Almost looks like a bialy or a donut with something left in the middle. But the peach part, you just get big mouthfuls of delicious peach. They're fantastic. So Brookdale Farm down in Hollis grows these donut peaches and donut nectarines. So this one is a donut peach. They pick you guys tell me what you think. I'm not going to say anything and influence your.
I get peach. I get some vegetable as well. I get a little of that apple character, like the dirty socks character that you get from an apple. Just a hint of it, not a lot. It doesn't have the same weight as the tomato. It doesn't have the same mouthfeel. It's a little thinner.
It's much thinner. Yep.
It's not as. I think the tomato one was sweeter than this.
This seems a little drier.
Neither were sweet, but I felt a little sweetness with the tomato one that I'm not getting from this one.
This to me is a little reminiscent of what Lake House White brings.
I can taste the Lake House
Whiteness. There's a bit of a
Whiteness.
quince-like component to it. There's a little bit of a tennis ball aromatic to it, and that peachiness that's in Lake House White. But Lake House White is a blend of 4 different things. This is just the peaches on their own, one fruit. So
But that is usually when people taste Lake House White. I don't know if they would before you said anything, but usually people's first reaction is, "Oh yeah, I taste the peach. Definitely taste the peach."
Yeah, I never taste the peach in that wine.
I don't,
Ever.
and
You do.
I taste.
I know it stands out to you, but I don't taste peach at all.
I taste this, but to me, this doesn't taste really anything like when I bite into a peach, or when you have like artificial peach flavoring.
Well, that's what's really
that type of
interesting
peach
about
is such a different flavor to me.
Yeah.
But I recognize Lake House White in this.
Yeah.
So
It is
maybe that
fascinating
peach.
when you transform a fruit into a wine, because just like you said, Marika, it's not like eating the fruit. You don't have the same perception. And we found this early on. Remember, we went down to the docks and we bought our first grapes, Merlot grapes. And we're eating these candy, sweet
So sweet.
things.
Unbelievably
It didn't taste
sweet.
anything like Merlot wine at all. Zero. There was no relationship between the two.
It is so, what was so remarkable to me is just how sweet. You think of grapes, you think of table grapes. Table grapes
They're
come
very
in.
tart usually.
Table grapes come in at about 17 bricks. That's the industry standard for a table grape. A wine grape is coming in at 25 or 30 bricks and sometimes higher than that.
What's usually
So
used for
twice
like
the sugar.
grape juice?
Table grapes.
Those
Yeah,
table grapes,
Concord
or
grapes.
something kind of in between. Maybe.
They add sugar.
That's true.
And then they'll add sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we talked to a table grape farmer. He said they shoot for harvesting at 17 bricks. That's their
A
magic.
lot of them, I know, I
Required
remember
by-
reading, like in California, you're not allowed to harvest Thompson seedless grapes before they hit 17 bricks
Wow.
or 19 bricks. And so all the farmers rush to try to get their grapes to ripen up, because if they can go to market first,
Yeah.
they get top dollar for them and off they go. So
Because
they
everybody else
all,
is waiting.
you
to
know,
that
try to
hit 17 and
hit
pick.
17 and pick.
Yeah.
And off you go.
And if they pick too early or some of them didn't get there, they might
Right.
have blown it. So gotta be careful.
All right, so that's
And
a donut peach.
again, I want to remind everybody that each of these wines is no more than 4 months old.
Mhm.
And a typical wine here is going to be 9 months to a year, and in some cases 2 to 3 years. So these are really, really young. We're
Right.
still a lot of growing and changing going on here.
Yeah, good. So we'll do another little rinse here.
Matt asks, is Cayuga the sweetest grape?
Cayuga would be typically not as sweet.
Not as
Cayuga is a hybrid, so it's a cold climate.
That's a
grape.
cold hardy.
Yep. That's one of the ones
most
I've
of the
seen at
times,
New Hampshire
Matt,
wineries.
in our climate with these cold hardy grapes like Cayuga, Marichal Foch, we're fortunate if we have a good long enough growing season in New England or upstate New York to hit 22, 21, 22, 23 bricks. But as Bob was saying, in warm climates, Southern Italy, California, some of the wine grapes will have an excess of 25, 28 bricks, 30 bricks.
30 bricks. Yeah.
Which is really high, produces a tremendous amount of alcohol. And it's challenging for growing and harvesting the grapes. You want the grapes to be at full ripeness, full phenolic ripeness. In other words, they're going to bring the best flavors and aromatics to the glass. At the same time, if you let them get to that full ripeness, they've also swelled up with sugar. Their sugars have gone really, really high. And now you're going to end up with a wine that's 15, 16% alcohol, 17% alcohol.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Could be challenging for the yeast to actually convert all those sugars, and then you end up with a sweet Cabernet. Nobody wants that. They want something dry. So it's a real challenge, and more in California, people will do various techniques to try to reduce the alcohol. It's mostly a reverse osmosis process. They go
Remove
through
the alcohol
and
after the
remove the
finished wine.
alcohol afterwards. So they get the fruit at peak flavor ripeness with all the sugar, ferment it, and then get rid of some of the alcohol.
And another solution to the problem is a lot of Napa Valley and that region wine growers are buying further and further north. They're pushing up into the Mendocino area and all the way up to Northern California and then into Oregon because
I've read they're looking in Canada.
Yeah.
Big owners of wineries in Napa are looking in Oganaga Valley or further up to start buying acreage up there with the climate change, with things getting warmer. They're looking to go to higher latitudes.
Well, I guess
where their vineyards won't burn down too.
And then they won't burn down either. That's
another solution to the higher alcohol, right? Is you could, if you had, a certain crop coming in at 15 or 16% alcohol, and you had a crop of the similar grape coming in at a northern climate at 13, you can blend them and you get your alcohol down that way.
Yep.
Ken, have you ever used pear in Winnie White or even Lake House White?
So
Question from Janice.
It's pears. I started making pear wines back in my basement in right at the beginning of this, 05 or 06, because I had a couple of pear trees in my backyard.
I might have a pear in my cellar.
You probably do. So there's a great group of beverages called a perry.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Which is
they've often gotten
like a
thrown
hard cider made out of apples. A perry is made out of pears, and this is done. Apples and pears grow in the same sort of climates. So in Normandy, France, in Great Britain, they make perries. They make hard ciders. Sometimes they blend the two, both apples and pears. Almost every one of our heirloom hard ciders that we've produced here has pears.
A little bit
in
of
it.
pear, yeah.
And they're mostly pears from my trees. Sometimes I get local farmers that have pears.
Are pears hard to find here?
No, but pears are a little tricky to ripen properly. Some of the pears, you need to pick them when they're still hard and then put them in a cold environment, put them in a fridge, drop them down to 35.
Oh, that's what Greg me used to
for
do.
a week or so, and then you take them out a couple days before you want to eat them, and they ripen up. So that tricks them into
thinking it's going to be winter.
I guess it's really weird, but it's amazing. I let some of mine try to stay on the tree to get fully ripe, and the cores rot out, and they don't get fully ripe. And if I take them in and chill them down, and then bring them out, the whole thing turns into this perfect, luscious, creamy core pear. It's just right. It's perfect.
I think of them as being mixed in often in sort of the old orchards that a lot of New England farmhouses have. There's often a pear tree kind of thrown in the mix.
Tree,
Yep. So this,
but making, just back to the pears real quick. So one of the challenges is, so it's challenging to ripen them, to get the crop up to ripe. If you're dealing with hundreds of pounds, that's a real challenge.
I don't have the facility to do that.
Right. And then it's also a challenge to ferment them because of if I remember the seed in the middle, or I forget what it was. There's something that's complicated about the fermentation process.
It's sometimes, I think, just the pectins or the acid. It can be fairly low acid fruit, so it doesn't produce that great of a wine on its own unless you balance that right or blend with it. I'd like to work with it more. I just don't have the capacity. With these, the farm will pick a bunch of peaches. I'll buy a couple bushels of peaches, and they come in and they pick them a little bit. They've turned their color on the tree, but they're still a little bit hard, and that's when they pick them and bring them to market. You go to the store and you buy some peaches. You bring them home. They're still a little hard. You leave them on your counter for a day or two. They get fully ripe, and then you eat that peach. So what I do with all of these fruits is I'll buy that bushel of peaches and I leave them downstairs in the cellar. And every couple of days I look through and find those that are nice and soft, and I smush those up into a bag or a bucket that I freeze. And eventually, after a week or two, I have all of those peaches or nectarines, whatever it is, they were all frozen at peak ripeness. So I get the full flavor character of it, and I put them into a freezer situation. And then once that's all done, then I can take them out, thaw them, and ferment them.
Nice. So this is, what's next?
This is a yellow nectarine.
This one.
I did both a yellow nectarine and a white nectarine.
Oh, that's so nice. It's so interesting.
It smells so I want to say tropical almost. This almost smells peachier to me.
Yeah.
And
it's
tropical.
Much more
I get the tropical,
tart.
like you said.
It's interesting. When I took this out of the carboy a couple hours ago, it was very unimpressive. But this little bit of air to it has really opened it up nicely.
I'm getting like a Chenin Blanc.
It's very great, like a white one, like a Chenin Blanc. Some of that, the peachy notes that. It's got kind of a creamy character to the nose. I don't know. It's not a good term for smell, but that's what
it's almost in that tropical. It's sort of that tropical smoothie,
Yeah.
Or that a pina colada with its coconut in there.
There's also kind of a spiciness to it.
Mm.
I love the texture of this. It's very reminiscent of the quince to me. It's got and sometimes I like house white.
Yeah.
Wow. It's got this texture, a lot of sourness to it.
Nice sourness.
Very,
I like that.
That's good. And these, again, I just waited till these were all ripe, and then they get smushed and frozen.
Sauvignon Blanc characteristics with that sourness.
Yeah.
This is a nice. This is a nice start.
Yeah. This I would almost. The other two I can see where it's going. I'm excited for this to come
but
on.
not that,
this one
not that interesting. Yeah, this
I could drink this already and not mind it. Yeah.
So what just came to mind for me was really interesting. I've had wines made from similar types of these fruits all over New England over the years, and almost without exception, they're sweet.
Right.
And for some of the reasons that we're talking about, balance and people trying to, just get an enjoyable flavor out of something that's not quite right all by itself when it's dry. But it's such a pleasure to try it completely dry with no sugar, because then you really discover what that fruit has.
The real flavors.
To offer.
Yeah,
it's
you
not
get
sugar.
The true flavors. Yeah,
Sugar just masks.
Sugar compresses the aromatics. It compresses the flavors. It adds body to the wine. So a lot of fruits will be kind of hollow, like that last one. That donut peach was kind of thin, didn't have much body. The tomato had good body, but the peach did not. So when you add sugar, just a little bit of sugar, it opens that up and gives you a better mouthfeel, better flavor profile. And part of it's paradigm. People know fruit wine is sweet. They're looking for a sweet wine.
Right.
They want that. When they buy a fruit wine, they want a sweet wine. When they buy a Chardonnay or a Chenin Blanc, they want a dry wine. And so we're doing a little different here because we're trying to explore these fruits more along those lines of a dry grape paste wine. All right, rinse your glasses. That was the nectarine.
And this is good timing. Kathy was asking, she says, how about apricots or dandelions? And look at that.
Dandelion.
Next we have apricot. And you have definitely worked with dandelions before, right?
Yes,
I've definitely seen dandelion wine.
The new Flower Power, which is in barrel right now, won't be out for another year or bit, is we've got dandelion in it.
Great.
So one of the things about dandelion, and I've never made dandelion, or I've never had dandelion wine. I've had your wine with dandelions used as a to steep, but you've never made a proper dandelion wine where you actually ferment the flowers.
Correct.
With sugar. Right. I asked.
I think I had Coffin Cellars.
They may have.
I think I tried that at an event a couple of years ago.
So the reason I've talked to enough people about this, and dandelion is really your folk wine. It's people have been making dandelion wine for years, and talk to people about why you never see dandelion wine in a winery. A lot of people ask that question. You have to have so many of those little petals. Those little dandelions.
Not the green part.
Just the petals.
You need kids. You need a bunch of kids. Kids love picking dandelions, and it's not like you can bring a bouquet of dandelions in and put them on the table. It doesn't work.
It was a one-day event for me. It was an all-day event.
Picking enough of them.
Pick them all and then clean them all, and then put them into the.
And that's just for steeping them. If you were to actually make a wine,
then it's making wine, and that's the same as any.
But you need a lot more, right?
No, I think I had more than enough
to make wine.
Yeah.
So you would just add water and sugar and
water and sugar and ferment.
But it's a lot of work. You said you did a day of picking. How much did you make? A carboy?
1 5-gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The daylilies are so much easier. I can
those
just
are
pluck
big,
daylily flowers. So I fill a 30-gallon trash bag, half an hour. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wait till you smell this thing.
Yeah, this one's a lot.
Wow.
This is so
What is this?
wild.
Apricot.
It's apricot. Now, these apricots.
There's
from
all
Brookdale
kinds of
this
things
year,
going on in
this
there.
is wild. This is like Middle Eastern spice.
Yeah, it's very savory smelling.
So bizarre. I think part of this is because the apricots themselves were very small. Just a little bit of thick, tasty flesh around a pit. So it was fermenting a lot of pits, basically, relative to the amount of fruit. So I think some of the nuttiness that's coming through and that savoriness is from those components that are near the pit, but it's really wild.
I can taste that. We always get dried apricots at Christmas. One of my aunts always sends us a bunch of dried fruit from California, I think.
If you put that in your head, you go apricot,
and then I get it. And it's those in particular, more than just when you eat an apricot, the dried ones, they have that almost mouth-watering kind of bit of tartness and almost spice to them. And I feel that,
I want to do this one again because it was such an anomalous year for them that they just didn't swell up. They didn't get enough water. They didn't plump up. You know, the peaches were big peaches and their apricots are they were like 3 or 4 good-sized apricots in the bushel. The rest of them were tiny. They were just tiny apricots.
So this wine is, of all of the wines here, the clearest. What sort of defines what? They're all about the same age, and this one's the sediments dropped out much more rapidly. Any ideas about what changed?
I think it's the tannins from the pits.
Okay,
that's my notes from while I was looking at it. But it clarified. It was a cloudy mess for a couple of months, and it's all settled down. When I moved the container to get a sample out of it, it stirred it up a little bit. There's a thick layer of sediment there. I've just got to rack it again. Get it off that.
So every time I put my nose in this glass, I get something different, and I don't. It's hard to define what it is I'm getting.
Really
it's unique flavors or unique smells. I haven't tried it.
My wife cooks with different spices, Eastern spices, and she'll throw those in a pan. And this has some of those Indian food sort of notes to it, or
It's definitely got those tannins. It's got mouth gripping tannins. They're soft. They're not. They're not.
there's bitterness on the back end of the wine.
I didn't get that yet.
I like that wine.
Kathy's joined us, as does Travis, actually. Kathy says dandelion wine is popular among Pennsylvania Dutch. And she also wishes she was here to try the apricot.
I wish you could all be here to try these.
Yeah.
It's such a unique opportunity. In fact, maybe someday that should be an event we could hold here. You could put on an event here in the tasting room where we bring up some wines from the cellar and let people learn about young wines.
It's such a wonderful educational experience.
Would be this, but then the finished product.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is kind of
You need
weird.
to see
I think
where
for
it's
a lot of
going.
people, this would be like, why did I do that? Why would I want to do that?
I bet for a lot of these people, they would love
I
to
think they would.
see what this is about. Yeah, this is a great experience. I mean, this is how you learn about wine. This is how I've learned about
This
wine.
is so interesting.
If you get into the root, you get into the real nitty gritty, the core of the product, and this is it. This is the core. This is going to become something really special because there's a lot left to be done.
And
There's
that's
a
why
lot of work to be done.
I think Ken is right that you need to have this and then be able to try what does this become? What happens?
Right.
Which is the same in the grape world. If you travel around and you drink young grape wines and you visit with wineries that are in their process and you barrel taste, it's the same thing. You wonder, where's this going? It's not always clear. It's not always obvious.
Matt, of course, wonders, is there a plan to make small batches to sell, 20s and 40s at a time?
That's going to be Matt. He's going to have a barrel.
Matt wants to, what do you call it? You foster or
Sponsor
He wants
a
to
barrel.
sponsor a
He's going to
carboy.
sponsor a cardboard. You could sponsor a cardboard. There you go.
Matt, be sure if there is ever such a thing, small batches, you will, I'm sure, be the first to know.
Yes.
Yes. Club members always get noticed of new things.
All right. Nice. Another, I like this
one's
shape beaker
smells
too.
lovely.
Look at the
I
science in that.
like all the different,
An
the
Erlenmeyer.
the donut one was
That's a
great
Boy,
shape.
that's fun, yeah.
It's one, my sister, for the longest time at their house, I think they still have a few floating around. All their drinking glasses in their kitchen were assorted beakers and things that they had gotten from the, USM science department that they were just, recycling and getting rid of and updating all their supplies. So they were free. And so it worked. They were great.
So this is a type of plum
Oh,
that has a
I
purplish
like this.
skin, green purple, and then a yellow flesh and a small pit, little tiny pit with no spike.
They're delicious.
When
I
I
grabbed
think
a few
plum,
of
that's
these.
what I picture.
I got to make an Ozark plum wine, just a 5-gallon one, a few years ago. That went into the Winnie White, but I loved it, and so this year I got everything Brookdale produced, 27 bushels or something.
Wow.
So they knew I got in there early and spoke with their manager, and she was able to set it aside for me and delivered it
It's
out.
nice. It's kind of appley. It tastes, I don't know. It's
I did get
it's
apple
kind of
in
like,
there.
it looks, I don't know,
Like a
it
green
seems kind
apple.
of like one of our rosés almost.
Yeah, it's a very delicate aromatic. I'd love to do like an Ozark.
A plum
mead,
rosé.
use some of the honey component.
I can see that pairing nicely. Yeah. The honey.
Nice mouthfeel. A lot of acidity. Fruit.
Good
Then
tannin,
again, if it's
really good tannin
Yep.
grip.
just tasting it,
So these are
I don't know. But then if I think plum, if I picture biting into a plum and then taste this,
It's
Then-
it's one of these things that doesn't seem like a plum, to me. I get some of the plum aromatics, but completely different than when we're eating those plums.
And these are better tannins than this.
oh yeah,
I like the mouth coating nature
Yeah.
of these
this is,
tannins.
yeah.
I thought these were nice tannins, but these are nicer.
These are nice. The old
Yeah.
dark is nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so happy to do that. We have the bulk of this downstairs. 5 gallons, 5 gallons, 5 gallons.
That's
5 gallons,
beautiful.
100
Yeah.
gallons.
There's so much to be done. It's going to take you days, weeks to figure this out. Months.
Music.
Travis
Well-
wonders, in their current state, what would you say any of these would pair with? Could you pair any of these with things, or
Oh,
maybe even what do you anticipate them pairing with?
well, I don't know until it's a finished wine.
Yeah.
But on pairing these, they're not a finished wine, so I wouldn't really.
I don't know yet.
You're not going to drink these with food because they're not done.
Yeah.
You're not
I'm
going to drink
thinking
these
some
yet.
of the mead ones. I mean, we're thinking about pairing going into this weekend. For another heads up for everyone, we're doing a fabulous wine and cheese tasting event on Saturday that I hope
That's
many of
this
you will join
Saturday.
us for.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we actually came up with a new pairing that hadn't been discovered yet. The Lake
I
House
know
White.
you guys were having a little party in the kitchen the other day.
we
I saw.
were we were
Good.
planning.
Of course. Oh, that
But
one.
Travis and I discovered with the Lake House White that new Brick House Tilsit, which is a really mild kind of soft cheese, almost Swiss like. I
I
guess
love that cheese.
it's. I actually I didn't love it at first. It seemed almost too.
Nothing there.
There wasn't much
Yeah.
there, but we paired it with the Lake House White, and because Lake House White is such a nice light wine, that's one that I think we've had a harder time finding cheeses that pair with it
It's so light.
because it's so light. And this Tilsit was lovely with it. So that's one of the pairings you can look forward to on Saturday. But also thinking about the meads, when we have just good goat cheese is always one of my favorites. Christine thinks the plum rosé sounds lovely.
Oh,
And
all
then
of them.
Kathy suggests the plum is semi-sweet. If yes, then Thai. Matt suggests plum and rose hips.
All of these are
roses.
bone dry. Am I correct? Yeah. No sweetness to them at all. Which is the best way. And Travis, to your point about comparing these or pairing these with food, I mean, really, the drier the wine, I think the easier to pair with most food, with most meals anyway. Obviously, dessert wines, sweeter foods are going to, and of course, as Kathy pointed out, spicy foods need some sweet.
A little
But
bit.
for more classic savory type foods, you really need drier wines to make those pairs. And that's what's so great about it. You've taken fruit that classically is considered sweet or made into wines that are sweet and figured out how to craft them into dry style wines that
Well, a
pair
lot of
well
it,
with food.
too, a lot of people that say they're going to make a sweet plum wine, they may ferment it down to this. It
And-
sits there like that for a little while. Then they add a bunch of sugar before they bottle it. So in the end, it gets.
What is this? What is this? Ooh. Ooh.
So this
This has
is
also got a lot going on.
this is another type of plum.
This one, it already tastes like mead. I think this tastes like honey already. I don't know what it is. Maybe
Honey,
there's a floralness or something. I think this already tastes like a mead.
Oh God, Ken, you have so
There's
much.
actually there's a small flaw to this. I don't know if you guys pick up. It's an aromatic thing. But if you think nail polish or acetone,
Yeah.
there's a very faint
That volatile acid,
Yeah.
volatile acidity.
Yeah, so there's something that's a little bit off.
Are there methods that you have to correct things once it gets to this point and you can smell and you can sense that
Sometimes you
imperfection?
can,
Are there
sometimes
things you can do?
can't. It depends on the wine. There's a light touch of these volatile acid components actually add complexity and make the wine quite desirable and enjoyable. Go a little too far and it's a problem.
You go really too far and it's vinegar.
Yeah, it can go to vinegar. It can smell like matches.
Yeah.
So this is
this
METHY.
methyl.
METHLY.
Maybe methylene. This is a red skin, red fleshed
Methylene.
plum that's a little bit earlier in the season, comes ripe a little bit earlier, and I've just never been impressed with it. And still, it doesn't hang together for me as a wine. There's things in here that just, it may be as a small component in something else, it would be nice. But it's not something, when I first had these Ozarks, I'm like, I gotta make wine out of this stuff. Gotta get more of them.
I think it was you said this. This is really reminiscent for apple. It's reminiscent to me of apples, of an apple wine.
It's very apple wine-like.
Yeah.
If
I mean,
we
the
could
color
say it
is
was an
lovely.
apple wine, I'd say, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little different, but like we made an estate apple wine from your trees in your backyard one year.
Yeah.
And it had this sort of character. That was chopped up apples with water and sugar to ferment. That was a fun one.
It took years for those to come into their own, but they did.
Right.
So here's the challenge: is you have all these interesting flavors and all these interesting aromas, and you're going to somehow figure out how to take these 5 or 6 things and turn them into a couple wines. I can't even imagine how you're going to do it.
I don't either.
Yeah, this is good timing. We've got about 15 minutes left, so a good time to do some blends.
I love this little tool.
What is this little tool?
So this is a little pipette that you can dial in how many milliliters you want.
Nice.
So most of the time in a lab, and the way I used to do it, I'd have a pipette that's a 2 milliliter pipette or 5 milliliter pipette, and you stick it in something and pull up that much, and you have 5 milliliters. And then you switch to a different one if you wanted 2 milliliters. With this, you just dial in what you want. I want 8.4 milliliters. That's what I'll get.
Cool.
So you can just dial it in for anything. It's wonderful.
We learned about that. We were on a visit to the lab at LaBelle Winery, and she had just learned about this tool herself and was using it in her process. And I ordered it online that moment.
That's right.
Saw it and I was like, I've got to have that.
That's very cool.
Well, Ken has to have that. I don't need to have it.
Ken, have you ever considered mulberry wine? Question from Kathy.
Yes, I almost had a chance to make mulberry wine.
Aren't they? They're kind of like elderberries, aren't they?
Someone came in, they have a mulberry tree, and they wanted to harvest mulberries for me. But I never got the mulberries. I did some research on them. And maybe I made too much here, but we'll see.
I think of mulberry. I don't know if I'm right in my head about them. I think of them as being kind of like elderberry. Is that what they're like?
They are almost like a stretched out long blackberry.
Oh,
They grow on a tree,
yes.
and they
Okay.
drop on the sidewalk and make a big mess.
Yep.
They're
All
a
right.
tangy sort of fruit.
So you already have an idea what you're doing here. So you've tried this.
No, I haven't tried this, but I'm doing homework right now because this is where I want. This is one of the things I want to try. Don't drink it all. Just have a sip of this.
All right. So this was like, I don't know, looked like about maybe 4 parts Ozark, 1 part tomato-ish.
Maybe even less than that.
It's 20 to 2, so it's 10 to 1.
Okay.
So that's one part of tomato and 10 parts of plum.
What's the alcohol on these? Because this smells a little hot to me. A couple of these did. Do you have an
I
idea?
haven't determined it on these, but they're all were formulated to be around 13%. ABV, but it varies.
It's amazing how potent that tomato is. Even at
So you get
even
the
at 10
tomato.
to 1, I'm still
Yeah.
getting the tomato.
Yeah, so I don't get the tomato in there. I get the
Still get the
plum
tomato.
dominating everything, and there's this cool little twist to it.
There's a hint of it. I can get it. I get a hint of it.
Yeah.
You said it first, so it sparked it for me.
Mhm.
So don't drink it all because I'm going to add stuff right on top of that.
All right.
Let's do 2 of this.
I get a lot of the like tartness from those plums for sure.
Now we're just all over the place because we all have different volumes.
That's all right. This might be how you get to this. Maybe we just get a whole bunch of people sit around and just go
This is what I do downstairs.
all over the place. Try this, try that.
And this was, you added now
I
the
added some nectarine.
nectarine.
So this is actually how classic winemakers do it. They, many blends are 2, 3, 4 different grapes that go into a wine. Very often 70% or more is one variety, but 2%, 3%, 4% of various other wines go into it just to tweak or nuance that flavor. And they'll do the same thing. They'll have a big tasting party where a lot of the winemakers and assistant winemakers and some of the other employees in the winery will come together and just do some blending.
Now, even just that small change, now I don't taste the tomato nearly as much with that small change.
Yeah, I like this because it's dominated by that plum, but it has more complexity to it going on.
Should we still be saving some, or are you starting fresh?
It's now, it seems overly tart. Now I'm getting more tartness. This combination.
Yeah, the nectarine was
The nectarine was a very tart one.
Yeah. So do this.
There you go. Just a tiny, tiny little.
So
Yeah, listen up.
Got a little more in my glass. I probably need a little more. Yeah. So now we've got, I assume this is sugar added in there.
So that's a very small amount of sugar.
I get that.
It'll cut that tartness a bit. And these little nuances of change, and we've done this before, the slightest change can just
a little tiny bit
change the world.
Yeah. I was balancing the
It's a
next
resolve.
batch of strawberries today. Just a little touch of sugar added into it to see that. And it completely changes the wine, the whole experience.
Will the tartness smooth out over time as things age?
Acidity is one of the components that are important to aging a wine.
So you need that acidity there, but will it
So
become less? Ooh.
it's a good question. There's no easy answer to it. What's really fascinating about wine is that it's constantly changing, and it changes most rapidly when it's really young, and then those changes take longer and longer as it matures. After about 6-9 months, the rapid changes have started to slow down a bit, and that's when we can do our blends and figure things out. The sourness tends to turn into a sweeter character as the fruit emerges in the wine. So a good example is Hermitage. So when we have a young Hermitage, it's very acid rich, very bright, very sour. And then you let that sit for 5 years. And that sourness is still there, but you don't perceive it because the fruitiness has come forward. It's a really fascinating
So
process.
the actual pH of the wine doesn't change? If you measured the pH over 5
It
years?
may, but pH and acidity are not directly
Okay.
tied together either.
At least when it comes to flavor.
pH is a good measure of that. It's hydrogen potential, and it's a thing that you can measure electrically. And they do relate in a general sense to low pH is high acid, high pH is low acid. But they're not one-to-one.
Okay.
They're not.
So if you measured can you measure actual acidity?
Yeah.
So if you
And
measure the
hydrogen.
acidity, it does it or doesn't it change with age?
It tends to stay pretty steady,
But it perceives different when you actually
but then you
taste it.
perceive it differently over time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So most of the time you titrate for the total acid that's in a wine. And when any fruit ripens, the acidity goes down and the sugar content goes up. And you want to harvest that fruit at a nice balance of acid to sugars. And it's really critical because if you harvest it a little bit too soon, you get a little more acid and a little less sugar, which may be great, a Vino Verde or some.
Depending on what you're making.
Depending on what you want to make. If you're looking for a overly ripe, low acid bomb, a big jammy red wine, you may let that go a little bit farther in the ripeness, get less acidity in there. But it can be dangerous too because the acidity keeps the right balance of it, keeps it lively in your mouth, makes it enjoyable, makes it a cleanser so it pairs with foods. And it also protects the wine. So a higher acid, lower pH sort of environment is less likely to get infected by bacteria or other things. And so winemakers that have low acid wines, those can go bad on you much more readily than lower pH, higher acid wines. Those are much safer. So champagnes, Chardonnays that are used with that high acid. Remember the guy in California there, the big cement tank, and he just doesn't even worry about it. Doesn't worry about sulfur levels because he's got such an acid bomb. Nothing's going to affect it. But someone working with overly ripe Cabernet is fretting every day that it's going to get contaminated because the pH is 3.9 and the acid is quite low. So it is a balance. It's a food chemistry thing. So tell me a blend of what you want to do.
Well, the added sugar definitely that balanced the tartness.
Yeah, it
very well.
it out a little bit. You have an idea, Bob? You want to come up with one? 1/5 of everything, or just pick 2 of them, blend?
That's what I mean. It's so hard. I can't even imagine where you start. Because first of all, we got to, I'm 6, 7, 8 wines in, so my mouth is already.
Well, that's just
That's
we've
true
been
at this
swallowing
point.
too. When I do this for hours, I'm just spitting it out.
Yeah.
To try to keep, but you saturate your mouth.
I want maybe just some of the apricot with sugar.
Apricot with what?
The sugar.
With sugar.
Yeah.
Sure.
But see, this is why there are so many fruit wines that are sweet.
Yeah, because
it's the low-hanging fruit here is just add sugar till it tastes good.
But that's definitely not what we aim for. We want it to taste good without that sugar.
Without the sugar. We want to get as much of the combination that we're looking for without adding sugar. We want a dry wine. So sometimes you can't get away with it. Sometimes you have to add a small amount of sugar, but
What do you want to try about?
what was the one that had let's see. I want to try the tomato wine with this one.
Good, interesting combo.
You want tomato and methyl.
Yeah, and maybe like
what do you want? Ratio?
twice of this
Twice of that.
and 1 of that, 2 to 1.
2 to 1. I better be careful with this. I'm letting you guys have so much fun here, otherwise I'll lose my position downstairs.
I doubt it.
Move over, Ken. I want to make
cares?
them
Who cares?
wines. All right, I'm going to try apricot and nectarine.
Yeah, now I've got juice.
Too sweet?
Not necessarily, but yeah, it's definitely juicier. I like the taste of this one much better than the aromas. The aromas are much more strangely savory, I think.
So I'm doing apricot, peach, and nectarine, equal parts.
We've got some fabulous questions from the audience today. Matt wonders, is there much difference with the various sugars, like cane versus beet versus corn? I know you definitely get a fine sugar, but I don't know.
That's a
Beyond
great question,
that.
Matt.
There's a
excellent.
big difference.
There's a big difference. Every source of sugar tastes a little different, and it behaves differently during fermentation or with blending with the fruit. In fact, early on, when we were really getting into crafting the wines from fruits and various things that grow around here, it is a blend. It's a water, sugar with a fruit combination that gets fermented. So I wanted to know how that fermentable addition, that sugar that I added, was influencing the wine. And I made plain sugar wine. I did about 8 1-gallon experiments. I did corn sugar, powdered corn sugar. I did corn syrup. I did molasses. I did honey. I did maple syrup, cane sugar, beet sugar, and just made these. Remember those 1-gallon jugs?
That sounds so cool.
And all of them had flavors. The honey, of course, with the mead.
It flavors after they were fermented.
After they're fermented. So they're all fermented out. They've all turned into 12% alcohol.
No sugar.
Just no sugar left. All of it's been converted into alcohol. Well, all of those fermentable sugars, like honey has components in it, beets have other components in it that are non-fermentable sugars. But they all have flavor except for one. And that was this powdered corn sugar, dextrose. That tasted like watery vodka. So it was just ethanol. So to me, that was it. I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to use with my wine so that the flavor that you get is the fruit on its own.
And not
The
the sugar.
dextrose that I add into it during fermentation is just to boost the alcohol. And so that's what I use. When I back sweeten, let's say I'm going to add a little bit of sugar to Winnie White. I use cane sugar. And it's the perception of sweetness is a little bit higher with cane sugar. And I like the way it tastes with the wine. So I use cane sugar for the back sweetening. And I use dextrose corn sugar for the fermentation.
That's so cool.
Another common way in which winemakers will bring sweetness back into the wine to preserve some of the original sweet fruit before it's fermented. So a lot of grape winemakers will preserve some of the grape juice that's unfermented on the side and add some of the grape juice back in to
That makes sense. So then you
achieve
still
some
have
of the
those same
sweetness
flavors.
without adding any additives, without any sugar.
I did that with a batch of Deep Blue or something like that a long time ago, and I wanted to do more of it, but it's more of a logistical challenge. The freezers
can imagine.
and jugs and the containers and all of it.
So this was interesting. I when I was going for something that had a big nose to try and go on top of the vegetable of the tomato, and also the had a lot of fruity flavors to it. So it is interesting. I mean it's going in the right direction. I don't know that it's right, but that's what my experiment was about. It's trying to. You could try that. Ooh.
Oh yeah. I think you did it here. I like that
You did it better.
blend. That's a pretty.
What is that?
Well, that's 3 parts of these. So it's peach, nectarine, and apricot blended together.
Yeah, that's you're on the right path there for sure.
We're a few minutes over, so we should.
Oh,
There are
we
closing
did it
thoughts.
again.
We're just getting started, folks.
I know. It's just all
Spend a
these-
couple more hours
mixing
here,
and mixing and mixing.
blending and-
But yeah,
It's a
Bob's
lot
right.
of
At this point, you stop
fun.
being
You
as
don't- you get-
productive with it,
Yes, it's hard to get this.
which is tough because it's like you need to taste it
So what
all
I do is
before you can.
That's why you
You
spit.
have to do a little. Yeah, it's true.
You have to spit. It was just like when we were in California. We drank. I think that day we were with Randall Graham, and we must have tried 30 wines, 40 wines. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The servers at the restaurant were just.
Where's your?
But I think
What's going on
it's
over
not
there?
just it's not the alcohol sort of clouding things. I think it's just too much going
Too many
on.
flavors.
Too many flavors. Your
Yeah.
mouth gets beat up, whether or not it's whether. And I think that would happen whether you're
Right.
spitting or not.
Well, it's a whole different experience when you're spitting. I mean, we tasted a lot of wine that day, and I was able to really stay with it and appreciate the wines very differently.
Yeah,
than
you
if-
need to spit it out.
You really have to 100% spit it out. We didn't drink any of it.
Yeah.
We just spit it all out. And you could stay with it a lot longer.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, I usually have a session of maybe an hour or two, usually in the morning, and I'll go through and I've got the computer there with my notes and I'm doing different blends and I'm spitting out everything and just taking my notes, sort of converging, explaining why I'm thinking this or that. And then I put it away and I come back a couple days later and then I start fresh. I often will converge on something that, oh, I like this amount. I want 60 of that, 30 of that, 10 of that.
Yep.
This looks pretty good. So I come back and I'll blend that up and then I'll push it a few percent one way or the other and do that side by side. Just see whether or not that's really where I want to be.
Yeah, so you have a different sort of starting point each time.
And sometimes I get on a path, I go down, I get pretty close to it, and then I start over and it's completely wrong. And I start all over again. It's like, well, I thought I had something going there, but it didn't work out.
And and it's also important to note you do this in the morning. Your taste buds are vastly more alert and awake and capable of perceiving nuance in the morning. Of course, that is as long as you didn't just brush your teeth with a minty fresh
Right.
Right.
toothpaste. That doesn't help.
It's usually like 3 or 4 hours after I've been up and been around and my palate's clean and my focus is there.
Yep.
That's when I like to blend and try these things.
Well, good. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
A couple things to remind you. Next week, if you want to meet the folks at Defiant Records, that's where we're going to be next week. And the week after that, we're going to be in the brewery at
At Twin
at
Barns.
Twin Barns.
2 field trips in a row.
2 field trips in a row. We're going to go down
Fabulous.
into the actual brewery, drink
Can I
some of
bring a
their beer.
flask?
You probably can see why not.
Yeah, it's probably not legal.
Maybe not. But maybe we'll
Those
get to,
damn laws.
I mean, at
Those
Twin
damn
Barns,
laws.
maybe we'll get sort of something like this, sort of getting to try
Yeah,
beer
we're
or
gonna
two
learn
sort
about
of
some of their new
mid-process. So
beers,
that would be interesting.
some of their beer making process. So a couple good shows coming up for Monday.
And
I
then
hope
even
you can,
before that, we've got movie night tomorrow. If anybody's in the area, we're
yeah.
showing Bottle Shock tomorrow night. It's our first
first movie night.
showing.
We should be drinking California Chardonnay.
Oh, night. Yeah.
We don't carry California Chardonnay here.
Oh,
What are we gonna do?
We'll figure out
no.
something.
You had Lake House White went through Bottle Shock one time, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Did it? Oh, we'll have to tell that story tomorrow.
Yeah. So I hope
And then-
folks come out tomorrow.
yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's a great movie.
It's a great
I can't wait to come and watch it with you. So
And then again, that wine and cheese on Saturday,
wine and cheese on Saturday,
noon to 4.
noon to 4. Come anytime between noon and 4.
And
Give
there's
yourself a little
popcorn
time.
tomorrow, right?
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
of course. And guess
I
what?
know Matt likes the
The
popcorn.
popcorn, if you also as a donation, if you like popcorn, 1 bag of popcorn comes with your ticket. But if you'd like additional bags of popcorn, we just ask that you contribute a little donation to the local theater. We have the Interlakes Summer Theater is our charity for the popcorn. So
So explain that. So someone
we're going to give the popcorn away.
goes and they want more popcorn. So they go up and they get themselves a bag and they drop $1 in the
It's a volunteer payment
It's
to
a
the.
volunteer thing. They can put as much as they want.
Yep.
And none of that money stays here.
None of it.
goes right up the street
To the
Yep.
Interlake Summer Theater.
to the Interlakes Summer Theater. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're not trying to sell popcorn. We're just trying to
Yeah.
have fun and support a local theater.
Well, I like that idea. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's great.
Yeah. So great. We'll see you all next week, I hope. And until then, have a great week.
Have fun.
Maybe we'll see you tomorrow night or
Blend.
Saturday.
Blend.
Blend. Yes. Try your blends.